This week in Aristeia 101, it's simple synergies with the Smoke and Mirrors team. So let's go ahead and just dive into the team of Padre Inquisitor Mendoza, Mortaire, Cosmo, and Taolu. Padre Mendoza is here for healing and burning. Yep, burning. Mendoza provides frontline healing whether you like it or not. He's a better healer than Parvati and hands out burning, the only other stackable states in the game other than poison. There's really no reason for the opposing team to keep him alive. That's before we get to his tactics. As such, he's very risk-reward based. The more risk he's in, the more he's actually able to do. He helps moderate Mortaire's own risk-reward game. Having a source of healing enables Mortaire to use Fury, Berserker Rage, and Unbridled Fury with some degree of safety. Mendoza helps stack Burning alongside Cosmo. Since Burning can be, turn into uncontested damage potentially, this is a very potent team-up against hard targets like Maximus, Hammerhead, etc. Healing is of questionable use for Taolu, since he only has 2 health, which is really not that hard to blow through. However, he can make use of the burning states that Mendoza hands out for use with Ignorance. Also, while Taolu is easily our pick for the most annoying character in the game, Mendoza will likely get prioritized. Tanking via hate is definitely a thing. For tactics, Tabula Rasa is essentially the nuclear option of Mendoza's tactics. You'll really need to think the usage through here since it heals and removes states from everyone. That means no burning for damage or fiat voluntas, no dazzle from restan verba, no wounds for Mortaire's track, no states for Taolu's ignorance, no immobilizes. Tabula Rasa is actively anti-synergetic in that regard. Make sure you're getting more out of this through healing and removing of negative states on your team, or buffing states on the enemy, than you're paying for in synergy for the following actions. Fiat Voluntas is a good card with Mendoza and Cosmo handing out burning. The fact it has no range, no line of sight requirement, and as for your whole team, note the word allies and any number. Mendoza is already a fantastic healer, but takes it to a whole new level without the potential drawbacks of Tabula Rasa. Hic et nunc is the definition of taking lemons and making lemonade. It's almost an in-game resurrection and pairs exceedingly well with Mortaire in particular because of his bite. This would allow you to bring back a character defensively or offensively depending on the flow of the game. I personally have brought characters right back to Mendoza who are kind of like the worst possible thing for my opponents, to have them return full health and no minus energy. That's a very wonderful thing to do. The Res non verba works well with Mendoza and Cosmo. If you're going for a pyromaniac playstyle for both characters, this will be a good card to have. Next up is Mortaire. He's your hunter. He plays a balancing game between his berserker tendency, as his agility rolls would suggest, and, being dead. He has high offense, but is best when set up for his attacks and has a few wounds on him, actually. Wounds he can get rather easily. He and Padre Mendoza need to be watchful of their ranges from each other. Mendoza's passive heal can spell the difference between Initiative 4 and Initiative 3, but at the same time, being Initiative 7 is only one step away from being dead. Keep in mind this balancing act. Cosmo might need to save Mortaire now and then. Asteroid belts will help out with that. Laying out smoke will help Mortaire from not getting gunned down. And of course, Gravitational Slingshot is almost custom made for Mortaire and Cosmo. Think of the fastball special with Colossus and Wolverine. Taolu's paralyzing terror will help Mutare out quite a bit. It's easier to get to someone who can't move. Likewise, confusion can ensure Mutare has a more favorable turn by moving his target's position in the initiative lineup with someone who's already gone or is further away. Of course, No can help stop opponents from fortifying their defenses as well. Regarding tactics, Berserker Charge and Unbridled Fury are high-risk reward cards for Mutare, and why he benefits from Padre Mendoza. After using these, he might well need the healing, particularly if he maxes out either one. Track gets away from him to hunt down a wounded enemy or come beside a hurt teammate. Note it says target, not enemy or ally. Going 1 to 5 spaces with no line of sight requirement is very powerful, especially if he's dazzled, has intervening characters, or there's smoke on the field. Quenched is another risk-reward card, but is very much the reward side of things. He gets a full heal, but it's contingent on him sending the opponent to the infirmary, which is something you kind of want him to do on a regular basis. Cosmo to the rescue. Cosmo is the tank of the group, but he can do more than just soak up damage. Piling on burning as possible with Supernova, ruining ranged attackers' field of fire with nebulous smoke, and using Meteoric Charge when tied in allows for scoring opportunities even against some of the toughest blockers. Padre Mendoza will always appreciate there being more burning tokens out there for Fiat Voluntas and Res Non Verba. Likewise, every state out in play on the enemies benefits Taolu's ignorance. Additionally, Taolu likes Cosmo's smoke for hallucinations. While he has to hit the switch to place himself adjacent to the smoke, his range is a bit better than his actual ability to lay out smoke. As such, Cosmo can help him get around better and have more options. Alternatively, Cosmo will quite like Taolu's smoke, thanks to Multispectral Visor giving him an extra orange die to attack rolls. This makes Supernova better, but could even work for Cosmo's contender. 2 oranges isn't the worst possible attack. Regarding tactics, Asteroid Belt makes Cosmo an amazing tank. Essentially an emergency call, Cosmo can step in on any attack targeting an ally. This is great for fragile characters like Mendoza and Taolu, plus gives an assistance to Mutare. Infinite Density is a nice perk for Cosmo and Taolu since they both send out smoke. Immobilizing enemies is usually quite useful and makes something good a bit better. It also interacts with Dazzled, a definite plus. Gravitational Slingshot has an obvious combination with Mutare to set him up for his turn. However, it works nicely with any character, be they ally or enemy. It's a powerful position manipulation card due to its lack of line of sight requirements for the destination space. This is great for scoring, taking someone out of the scoring zone, getting someone out of harm's way, or putting them into it. You could also just throw an enemy behind a barrier and, well, they gotta move all around it. Fun stuff. Stellar Nucleosynthesis is a good match for both Cosmo and Taolu. Uncontested damage is quite nice, and 2 points of it is nothing to sneeze at. And finally, Taolu to attack their deck strategy. Now, Taolu is an interesting character. Any attempts to remove him from the board results in losing a card. At best, you can only discard 1 tactic card, then don't gain another. If you can't finish him off in 1 hit, well, each attempt is a card discard. He's really annoying and is best dealt with minus speed, immobilization, dazzling, but abilities that can cause damage without a defensive roll on his part. Add in his ability to immobilize for a price, or throw out smoke. Very irritating. Ideally, you're always doing something that will cause him to get his character switch. It's a slightly metagame way to debuff the other team. You are attacking their deck, which is not quite an out-of-game resource, but you know. Padre Mendoza is kept safer via Taolu's immobilizations and smokes. While it's true that other characters are as well, Mendoza is a fairly high-value target in my opinion. Cosmo and Taolu both share an affinity for smoke. As such, they can both provide protection for each other, as well as additional gameplay options. Increased damage rolls for Cosmo, and teleportation options for Taolu. Immobilized enemies are easier for Mutera to get to, letting him save action points for damage rather than movement. These are all great things. Regarding tactics, well, Taolu's a little odd here. So mind reading is unique in that it doesn't synergize with anyone because you're taking an opponent's card. So in that regard, it potentially synergizes with all of your characters. If you play the stolen card, there is the downside you have to return it to their deck, but you could just sit on it, denying them the chance to get it back. Keep in mind that just because a card was in the discard pile does not mean it was played. This really does play into Taolu's ability to get people to discard. The no is the standard deck answer to anything you don't want to see, and Taolu has it. This is a less character specific and more tool for the overall game if you're not playing standard. This is the only way to get it except for mind reading, should your opponent have it, in which case you could potentially have 3 no's in your deck should your opponents, well, have one in the discard. Regardless, it's a universal deck defense, and that's pretty consistent with Taolu so far. Confusion works well with any character who's in danger, thus making it another sort of meta defense. Should a character be threatened by a nearby enemy, use this to switch to someone who's actually, well, far away or on the bench or anything like that. If they're about to have a clutch moment where an opponent's team character is going to do something and score or take someone else, again, you swap them out for someone who's not in that position or ideally is in the infirmary. Confusion is a good card, and it's something that, when played right, is just going to really mess with things. Ignorance is yet another sort of meta defense. Given you can potentially wipe out a whole hand here, it's very potent if you set up for it. So ideally, if you've only got one state out on an enemy character, maybe it's not a great time to use it. But if there's 2 states, 3 states, oh wonderful, 4 states, then you can get them to discard that many cards, and that's very powerful. And these are the simple synergies for Smoke and Mirrors. Fairly quick this time, but they're, in a way, they're straightforward, and in a way, they're not. So we'll leave it to you to figure it out, play some more, enjoy, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.